You think you're helping. You think that feeling bad for someone is a form of love, that when someone suffers, you must suffer too. But here's the truth Nietzsche whispered to those willing to listen. Pity is poison, not just for the one you feel sorry for, but for you. And still, we confuse it with compassion, draping our weakness in the costume of virtue. What if I told you that feeling sorry for someone is often a disguised form of control? That it's not about them at all, it's about you, your discomfort, your ego, your need to matter, to be the savior. And Nietzsche, he saw right through that. In the Antichrist, he doesn't just critique pity, he declares it dangerous, degenerative, even destructive to life itself. That's not just a hot take, that's a spiritual landmine. He writes, pity thwarts the law of evolution, which is the law of selection. In other words, when you keep saving what life is trying to transform, you interfere with the deep forces that forge strength, clarity, and transcendence. You don't lift them up, you delay their rise, and in doing so, you lower yourself. Think about it. You see someone breaking, you feel a rush of guilt, pain, maybe even tears. You call it empathy. But what if it's really fear? Fear of their suffering mirroring your own. Fear that you could fall. So instead of facing that, you sink into pity, a false refuge. And it feels righteous, it feels good, but it's empty. Nietzsche saw this trap in the heart of Christianity, in the idolization of the meek, the suffering, the crucified. He called it a morality of decline. He called pity a vampire that lives off the strength of others. And yet we celebrate it, we hand out medals for it, we wrap our weakness in softness and call it saintly. But when was the last time you truly helped someone by feeling sorry for them? Not supported, not encouraged, but felt sorry, as if they were permanently damaged? As if they couldn't rise unless you lifted them? That's not love. That's a leash. That's ego in sheep's clothing. You want to help people? Then don't pity them. Respect them enough to believe they can suffer and still grow. Witness their pain without collapsing into it. Stay present without surrendering your spine. Compassion isn't about sinking with someone. It's about seeing them drowning and refusing to jump in. But throwing them the rope and believing they can pull themselves out. And yes, that belief hurts, because it means you can't fix everyone. It means letting go. It means they might not survive. But Nietzsche's world isn't soft. It's not meant to be. He called for a transvaluation of values, a reversal of the morality that worships weakness and calls it kindness. He wanted us to stop glorifying the fall and start honoring the climb. That's hard. That's uncomfortable. That's love without codependency. So I'll ask you directly, when you feel sorry for someone, do you believe in them? Or do you secretly believe they're too broken to heal without you? Because if it's the latter, you're not helping. You're feeding your own narrative of superiority. The one where you're the strong one, the caring one, the rescuer. And Nietzsche, he would have torn that mask off in a single sentence. Pity, he said, preserves what is ripe for destruction. Not because we're cruel, but because nature itself is cruel, and in its cruelty, honest. It wants things to die. Beliefs, identities, weaknesses, so stronger things can emerge. So stop confusing surrender with sainthood. Stop mistaking your pity for presence. Stop weakening the ones you love by treating them like porcelain. If you truly care, you'll stop protecting their pain and start respecting their power. Because suffering isn't a sentence, it's a stage. It's the fire before the forge, and no one becomes who they're meant to be without burning through something first. Let them burn. Stand beside them, sure, but don't put out the fire just because you're afraid of flames. Nietzsche didn't want a world of comfort. He wanted a world of creators, of builders, of those willing to transform their pain into power, not drown in it. So next time you reach out with pity, pause. Ask yourself, are you lifting them or chaining them to your need to feel like a good person? Because maybe the most loving thing you can do is stop feeling sorry. But I get it. You were raised in a culture where caring meant collapsing, where being a good person meant absorbing the pain of everyone around you, like some emotional sponge wrung out daily for approval. And you were told that this was love, that this was empathy, that this was the highest good. But Nietzsche would say this isn't goodness. This is cowardice, dressed as kindness. It's the refusal to confront the raw, unbearable truth of another human's suffering. So instead, you perform sorrow. You flinch at their pain, not because you're noble, but because you're addicted to the illusion of your own moral significance. You make their suffering about you. Pity is never selfless. It's soaked in subtle ego. And here's where it gets darker. Nietzsche believed that pity doesn't just weaken the pitier, it actively drains the one being pitied. Why? Because when someone looks at you with pity, they aren't seeing your strength. They aren't seeing your resilience, they're seeing your weakness, they're confirming your brokenness. And slowly you begin to internalize it. You stop fighting, you accept your role, the pitied becomes the pitiful. And that is soul death. Nietzsche saw this happen everywhere. In families, in friendships, in religion, in politics, systems built on the myth that protecting the weak means constantly reminding them they're weak instead of awakening their will to rise. And maybe you're hearing this and thinking, but isn't that cruel? No, what's cruel is pretending someone is too fragile to evolve. What's cruel is locking them in a cage of your concern. What's cruel is making them believe that their identity is tied to their suffering. And you might say, but some people need help. Of course, help them, support them, lift them, but never feel sorry for them. That energy is heavy. That gaze is a weight. People can feel it. You felt it. You've known when someone looked at you and saw only your pain, not your possibility. Didn't it shrink you? Didn't it make you feel small, even if they were being nice? That's the corrosion Nietzsche was warning us about. And if you really want to care, to love, you have to be brave enough to see past the suffering. You have to love someone for their capacity, not their crisis. Nietzsche's idea of love was brutal, unsentimental. He believed real love demands growth. It pushes, it challenges, it dares the other to rise even if it means pain, especially if it means pain. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he writes, "One must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." And guess what? That chaos isn't soothed by pity. It's sharpened by resistance, by friction, by the refusal to accept mediocrity in the name of mercy. That's the kind of love Nietzsche respected, the kind that wounds so it can heal, that breaks so it can build. So when you catch yourself feeling sorry for someone, stop and look deeper. What are you avoiding in yourself? What fear is being projected onto them? What wound in you is being echoed in their pain? Because sometimes we pity others for the very things we haven't healed in ourselves. And in doing so, we rob both of us. Let me be clear, compassion is powerful, but pity is compassion's shadow. It's what happens when we lack the courage to face someone's suffering without trying to fix it. It's a reflex, not a revelation. And Nietzsche wanted us to live with eyes open, not reflexes. He wanted us to become creators of value, not repeaters of tired moral scripts. To transcend the weak comforts of herd morality and dare to define what it means to care in a way that strengthens, not softens, the soul. So the next time you see someone suffering, resist the urge to collapse with them. Stand still, breathe, look them in the eyes, and remember the highest love doesn't pity. It believes. If you're still with me, this is the part where I ask you to pause for a moment and do something that takes real strength. Like, subscribe. Not out of pity for the algorithm, but because if this message cracked something open inside you, then this is your place. This is your circle. We're building something rare here. A space where ancient truths meet brutal honesty, where minds sharpen, and where no one gets to stay small just because it feels safe. So if that's the world you want to live in, click that button, and let's keep going. There's a quiet addiction in our world no one wants to name. The addiction to being seen as the good one, and pity is its favorite drug. You offer it not because it helps, but because it positions you above, wiser, kinder. But Nietzsche wasn't fooled. He saw how pity masquerades as virtue while secretly serving vanity. He saw how entire systems of morality were built to protect the weak not out of love, but out of fear that their weakness was contagious. That's why he detested it. Not because he lacked empathy, but because he believed empathy had been cheapened, reduced to emotional theatrics, weeping without action, guilt without growth, feeling bad instead of becoming better. Look deeper and you'll see the sickness. We live in a time where victimhood has been weaponized into moral superiority, where the most wounded person in the room is often treated as the wisest, where pain is currency and pity is applause. But Nietzsche didn't worship wounds. He worshipped will. He believed that the noble soul doesn't seek pity, it rejects it. It says, don't feel sorry for me, witness me, challenge me, but never see me as broken. This is the warrior's ethic, the creator's code, and it terrifies people because it removes the safety blanket of weakness. It dares you to stand naked in your suffering, not as a victim, but as a vessel of power. So ask yourself, when was the last time someone truly helped you by treating you like you couldn't handle your own life? They meant well, maybe, but didn't it leave you feeling small? Like a child? Like your power was being handled for you, not with you? Nietzsche's whole philosophy screams against this infantilization. He wanted us to be hard, not cruel, hard, clear, unsentimental. Why? Because life itself is unsentimental. Nature doesn't pity. The earth doesn't apologize for its earthquakes. The lion doesn't weep for the antelope. And no real transformation happens in the hands of pity. It happens in fire, in pressure, in necessary resistance. You want to evolve? Then stop softening every sharp edge in the name of care. Stop apologizing for strength. Stop feeling sorry for people who are meant to rise and instead challenge them to rise. That's real love. That's real philosophy. And Nietzsche wasn't just a theorist. He lived this. He suffered deeply. A body racked by illness. A mind pushed to its limits. Alone, misunderstood, exiled by the very world he tried to wake up. But did he beg for sympathy? No. He turned his agony into architecture. He turned collapse into creation. He didn't write books to be pitied. He wrote them to make the strong stronger, to arm you, not soothe you, to remind you that suffering is not a sentence, but a summons. And maybe right now, there's someone in your life you're pitying. Quietly, constantly. And it makes you feel needed, useful, important. But what if the most powerful thing you could do is stop? What if you looked at them not with sadness, but with belief? Not with the eyes of a rescuer, but with the eyes of someone who knows they have a wild and untapped strength they've forgotten. What if the love they needed wasn't soft hands, but steel eyes? The kind that say, I won't save you, because I believe you can save yourself. That's Nietzschean compassion. It's not warm, it's not cozy, but it's true. It holds space, not sympathy. It offers truth, not tears. It says, your life is hard, and that's exactly why you are capable of great things. You want to help people? Then be the mirror that shows them their power, not the pillow that comforts their weakness. Because here's the thing, if you keep pitying them, they will never rise. And worse, neither will you. Let's end where most never begin, with the truth no one wants to touch. Pity doesn't just wound the other, it corrupts you, slowly, subtly, until your strength rots beneath the weight of your own self-image. You become the eternal caregiver, the gentle soul, the one who's always there. And it sounds noble until you realize it's become your cage. Your identity starts depending on others staying broken, because if they rise, who are you without them needing you? This is Nietzsche's final knife. Pity is not a gift. It is a trap for both. You think you're being loving, but love isn't dependency. Love isn't emotional inflation. Love is a force that demands truth, not validation. Nietzsche believed in a kind of love that refuses to keep people small just to feel big. He believed in ruthless compassion, not soft lies, not blind indulgence, but the kind of gaze that says, I see your pain and I will not coddle it. That's real respect. That's the sacred violence of belief. Not belief in comfort, but belief in capacity. Because here's what pity never does. It never calls someone higher. It only kneels beside them and whispers, you're right, this is where you belong. But compassion, true compassion, stands and reaches and waits and says, climb, I'll be here, but I will not carry you. That's not cruelty. That's courage. That's the love Nietzsche believed could rebuild humanity, one soul at a time. Look around. Our world is drowning in pity. Awards for suffering, fame for victimhood, entire systems that reward staying hurt. Nietzsche didn't want to fix that system. He wanted to burn it down, because until we stop worshiping pain, we'll never learn how to rise from it. So here's the challenge. One, you're not going to hear from anyone handing out easy comfort. Stop feeling sorry. Start standing strong. Not just for others, but for yourself. Because every time you pity someone, you give yourself an excuse not to grow. You say, at least I'm better off than them. And you stay still, stuck, morally superior, and spiritually stagnant. That's the secret poison of pity. It feels like care, but it's decay. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're tempted to say, I feel so bad for them, replace it with, I see what they're becoming. Let that be your mantra. Let that be your fire. That shift alone could transform not just how you love, but how you live. Because the world doesn't need more sorrow. It needs more steel, more fire, more of us who can stand in the face of pain and believe in transformation, not in tragedy. Nietzsche once wrote, "What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not a goal." Don't stop at pity. Don't build temples around tears. Be the bridge and demand others cross it too. Because only then are we truly walking the path of strength. If this hit you, if something cracked open deep in your chest while watching, then now's the time. Like, subscribe. Not for vanity, for alignment, for memory, for momentum. Psychopulse is your new arena, where ancient truth collides with modern minds, where we build not for comfort, but for clarity. So if you're ready to rise beyond pity, click that button and join us. Because around here, we don't collapse in empathy. We rise in fire.